Wall Street Unplugged looks beyond the regular headlines heard on mainstream financial media to bring you unscripted interviews and breaking commentary direct from Wall Street right to you on Main Street.
What's going on out there? It's August 30th. I'm Frank Curzio. It's the Wall Street Unplugged. So we're going to hills and tell you what's really moving these markets. So happy Hurricane Day. So if you live in Florida, if you don't live in Florida, hurricanes are like culture here. I mean, similar to throwing babies from a 50-story tower in Salapur village in India, and people holding a blanket to catch them. It's believed to give their children good luck and a healthy life. Talk about a zero-sum game. If your baby makes it, it's probably going to be healthy. If they miss and don't catch it, it's probably not. But that's actually true. You look it up. Anyway, in Florida, when it comes to hurricanes, it gets a little crazy here. Once we see it come in its preparation time, we usually know probably 5 days out. It's probably going to hit Florida. It looks like it's going to hit, and then you do the cones, and then all the models, and then you see it all over the place. But as we get closer, it gets really interesting, right? Say like 2 days. When we're 2 days out, we know what category it's going to be when it hits land, where it's likely going to hit, but a cone, right? It's just maybe a little off to the left, to the right. Our hurricanes, they last for a day, maybe two. And this one's hitting us today on Wednesday, and expect to be gone in a day. You may lose electricity for a few hours, so having a generator is smart. See lines at Home Depot. But you really don't lose electricity for a long time. Now, I've been through a bunch of hurricanes since 2013. 2 or 3 of them were pretty big. I think one time we lost electricity. Most of the time it's for a few hours. I think once it was for like 2 days. But usually it's a few hours. Especially, as long as we're not talking about a Category 5 and it's craziness, right? These are Category 2s and 3s, which, again, which is expected to hit. But as a hurricane approaches, people go into like this panic mode. They start running to the grocery stores, and they pile up on everything. Food, water, meat, cases and cases and cases. Not like, oh, let's just repair. I mean, it's like a nuclear missile is heading to Florida, and you're going to be in a bunker for a month. I mean, there's long lines in stores, there's craziness, and it's not that bad this time, which makes me think maybe this hurricane, again, hasn't hit us yet. It's going to hit us maybe a little worse than expected this time around. But it's insane. It's like a frenzy. Yeah, people fill up their gas tanks, which, I guess I understand. You don't want to be on empty, but you don't have to be on full. And you have these long lines for gas as, the storm, they think is going to be here for weeks. But again, it blows in one day, blows out. I mean, if a bunch of trees fall, you can't drive over the trees anyway, so that's meaningless. And even if they do, it's not like you're in the Keys expecting a Category 5 with 140-mile-an-hour winds. You don't need to top off your gas tank and then also fill up like 3 gas cans and put them in. It's like just craziness here, like craziness. Now, normally during hurricanes, everyone inside of Florida and outside of Florida kind of watches the Weather Channel. And you have these experts like Jim Cantore, who my wife loves, by the way. He always goes into the craziest parts of the hurricane. A quick story about Jim Cantore, by the way, because my wife really loves him. And every time I watch Tiger Woods, I love watching Tiger Woods. I'm a big Tiger Woods fan. I love watching him play golf. My wife always says, why you watch that? Whenever I'm watching, she's over my show. Why are you watching that guy? That guy, I hate him. Cheat on his wife, had all his girlfriends. He's such an ass. But she hates Tiger Woods. I mean, I couldn't give a shit about his personal life. I just love watching people who are the best at things, and he's the best golfer ever. It's entertaining. I don't care about his personal life. But Jim Cantore, again, who she loves, and I found this story about 2 years ago, but he left his wife of 16 years, a few years after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and then he started dating a pretty young journalist at CNN. So she mentioned him recently. I'm like, why do you like that guy? That guy's such an asshole. I can't believe. Look what he did to his wife. That's messed up. She's like, shut up. Anyway, that's me and my wife's relationship. But getting back to Jim Cantore, you have these big hurricanes, and you have, Cantore, a few others. They go right in the middle of the storm, the very worst areas, and report from them, right? It makes it seem like the hurricane is a lot worse than it is, because they'll show maybe 3 of the houses that got hit pretty hard are the 600,000 houses, right? And they wear this baggy gear and go into the craziest wind tunnels, and they'll walk and they can't even walk. It's the most windy areas. I don't know if you remember when those people went a canoe paddling, and I think it was on CNN. They showed a few years of how bad it is. I don't know. I forgot what hurricane it was, whatever it was. And the reporter was talking. While the reporter talking, telling you how bad it was someone that walked by, like walked next to the canoe and right behind the reporter. And you saw the water was like less than knee high, and everybody. I mean, I think they got a lot of shit for that. That was a Weather Channel. But when you look at hurricanes, it's like this big entertainment factor because you have fear, unknowingness, the visuals and what's going to happen. And, you have Cantone and the crew reporting from the front lines, and they say, we do this because we're professionals. Everybody should be off the streets. And like being professional in this field helps you determine when a 50-foot tree is going to split in half and then go flying through your skull. I guess there's a class that teaches you that. This guy's getting a little crazy sometimes. But hurricanes, while common in Florida, there's a lot of craziness that goes behind the scenes that I'm sure a lot of people that don't live in Florida know about. Most of the time, we're cool. DeSantis has done a fantastic job when it comes to preparedness and getting everything ready and making sure everything's cool and closing places. I mean, there was hurricanes here, and I live in Amelia Island, that they came out and said, listen, you have until 12 p.m. to leave. Not this hurricane, different hurricane, one of the bad ones. You have to 12 p.m. to leave the island. If you don't, nobody's coming to rescue you. We're not risking anyone. I mean, that's pretty cool and pretty crazy, right? Like, we gave you plenty of time to get out of it. We told you 3 days ago, if you're not out of there and you call 911 or whatever, we're not coming to get you. So they don't mess around, right? So there's no, it's hitting Tampa. It's going to be a little craziness. I know that they're expecting a Cat 3 by the time it hits land. Big storm surges around Tampa, Gulf of Mexico, and stuff like that. I know everyone's watching. A couple questions and concerns about it, but where it's going to hit us, it's going to be probably about 60-mile-an-hour winds, which is pretty crazy. I mean, I tape some of these hurricanes, and 60 miles an hour, you don't realize how crazy 60 miles an hour is. That's why 100, 120 is insane. But I'm praying for everyone to be safe. A lot of people going to be watching on TV. Hopefully, if electricity goes out, it's not out for long. And if it is, from our perspective, just from logistics, we'll see. Wall Street Unplugged Premium, we usually tape on Thursday. We might push to Friday. We'll see in terms of what's going on here. But just thoughts and prayers go out to everyone. There's going to be a little craziness. Again, it's not supposed to be as bad and hit Category 3, but sometimes you really don't know. And I'm just hoping that everybody's safe and everybody is okay. But yeah, the whole hurricane thing, I'm getting used to it because I call myself Floridian now in 13 years. And most of the time it's a little more crazy than it leads on to be and what you've seen on TV. And hopefully that is the case this time. Although I did go shopping last night to get on normal shopping stuff, and then I realized, like, oh man, it's going to be crowded and everything's going to be out. It was crowded. It was in Jacksonville. It was definitely crowded, but they had a lot of stuff in. And I heard it wasn't too bad on the island either, which, I don't know, again, makes me a little nervous because usually everything is out of stock and everybody's going crazy. The fact that they're not, I'm hoping that doesn't mean that it's going to be worse than it is, but we'll see. We'll report accordingly, and I hope everybody stays safe out there. Let's get to the markets. A few big stories. The first is Bitcoin. The appellate court sided with Grayscale. That was in a lawsuit against the SEC. Against the SEC, guys. Well, the SEC denied Grayscale's application to convert Grayscale Bitcoin Trust into an ETF. And they declined it because it was political, right? Politically motivated. But now that the court sided with Grayscale, this all but assures that Bitcoin ETFs are coming. And they're probably going to come sooner than expected. Now, why is this a big deal? You have Fidelity, BlackRock, ARK, Invesco, WisdomTree. When you talk about management firms with trillions of assets under management, all filing to launch their own Bitcoin ETFs. And if you look at the news, Bitcoin surged over 7%. This happened on Tuesday. Bringing all crypto-related companies higher. The stock market, Coinbase, everything surged. It's about freaking time considering it's been a really dead market for a few months now. Very exciting for a while. I mean, for us, as you know, we're expecting this news and these approvals. So I said it's a great time to come into our crypto intelligence newsletter, which got its ass kicked like everything else in crypto. We did unbelievably before that, but it's been a bad 12, 18 months. FTX 2022 was a nightmare. Came back a little bit in 2023. You could say that for Bitcoin and Ethereum, but not so much for the top 50 or so cryptos, which are good names, good technologies. Still down 70% plus from their highs, and now's the time. Now's a great time to get in with a lot of good stuff going on. But this is significant news because Bitcoin ETFs, guys, it's just the beginning. I mean, you're looking at Grayscale, ProShares, Bitwise, and Van Eck. These are just a few large asset managers who filed for Ethereum ETFs, which you don't hear about often. It's always Bitcoin ETFs. And once these start to get approved, it's going to lead to active crypto ETFs, passive crypto ETFs, gaming crypto ETFs, DeFi crypto ETFs, smart beta ETFs, blah, blah, blah. Keep going and going. That's why it's a big deal. Because if you really look at the ETF evolution over the past 20 years and the impact it's had to the overall markets, I mean, the numbers are incredible. In just the last 10 years, we had 2,300 ETFs. Now we have 5,700. You can have an ETF for like anything. A leverage robotics, AI with whatever. I mean, there's an ETF for everything. Every single thing. It's incredible. But you're looking at assets that went from 1.2 trillion in 2010 to 6.7 trillion today. And it was over 7 trillion, 7.5, I believe, last year. The market's come down. This is across the U.S. and Europe, but they made close to 40% of the total U.S. equity volume last year. That's how big this is. And that's what crypto's about. What are people worried about? Well, I don't feel like opening up a wallet. I got to worry about everything. I mean, this comes on top of Coinbase just being one of the first institutions where they're going to allow custody, which is huge. These are the necessary steps that have to be taken in order for crypto to thrive and making it easier. Fidelity launching their platform with Paradigm, Citadel, and Schwab. Schwab and Fidelity alone, 70 million accounts that could have access to crypto. Not all of them are going to buy crypto, but now you see the liquidity there. You're making it easier for people where they can go to their brokerage firm, and it's very easy to purchase this stuff now or through their ETFs and have an allocation, and people want it. They want it, and they should want it. Crypto is here to stay. I keep telling everybody, listen, for 30 years, I mean, mostly small caps throughout my whole entire career, managing risk, you're not going to see a better setup in any sector when it comes to risk reward or better opportunities in crypto. Could you lose your money? Absolutely. But the reward is someplace where you can get 50x, 100x, 1,000x. And this isn't cherry picking like a Microsoft from, 25 years ago. This is like the top 60, 70 tokens. Look at their performance from when they started in a 5-year period and when they peaked. This is like this industry is still in its infancy. The technologies, the tokenization is a reason why every bank is launching their own blockchain. So they're going to tokenize their assets. Why would you tokenize assets? Well, there's 16 trillion worth of illiquid assets. That's bonds, that's real estate. And imagine tokenizing them. Now you make them liquid. You could sell off pieces to individual investors or institutions and make it easy because the blockchains are going to talk to each other. And there's companies that are doing that within crypto to make that easy without forming bridges and worrying about getting hacked and things like that. And that's what SPACs were all about, right? You guys should know that by now. It's just a matter. SPACs were so big because, hey, it allows the insiders in these private companies to go to the shell company, make them private instead of waiting 7 to 10 years for a liquidity period. Now you have a couple months. Do these pipe deals, all the insiders get out. You can only do that in a bull market where you could bullshit the retail investor and come out with these insane valuations and allow the insiders to get out. That's a shitty way of doing it. But what if there's a legit way of doing it? I mean, they did it where they inflated the valuations. Now what do you have? You have SPACs down 90% sitting with hundreds of millions of dollars in cash on their balance sheets that they raised at a much, much higher valuation. And the stock is shit because the structure is garbage. They can't sell out of it. There's not enough volume. All these guys, 40, 50% of the float is in at zero. So even though it was 11, even if it's $1 now, it goes at 30 cents. They're still going to sell 30 cents because they're going to make 30x. Who cares about the retail investor? But this isn't about that. This is about having these assets, and it's important. You want to have access to your money. If you're in commercial real estate, you own $100 million commercial real estate, and you're sitting there, it makes sense for you to sell off a piece of that. Let me sell 20%. All right, I'll get $20 million. Now the rest of that could trade as a stock or shares, right? It's tokenized. Now anyone could own commercial real estate. It's good for me. I just got a $20 million check, so I'm liquid. I could buy more commercial real estate and do this and even more. It's great for everybody else because now I could say, hey, this is going to pay a 7 to 8% yield on the rental income that I'm generating. Now you have access to a great asset that who has access to commercial real estate as a retail investor or a smaller investor? You don't. Checks off all the boxes. Okay, you got more people out there, more liquidity. That's more pricing, more competition. That's great. That's great for pricing. That's awesome. That's what you want. That's what tokenization is. But a lot of this is around, this is what we did. One of the first companies ever to tokenize our company. Been a little slow to develop, but now Larry Fink, BlackRock just said, that's the next biggest revolution is tokenization. He just said this a few months ago. That's the next biggest thing after ETFs. That's the next biggest thing. That's what he said. He should know a little bit. Forget about the politics and stuff like that. The guy's one of the most powerful people in the world. Controls almost every major company, right? I mean, it's insane. The whole ESG thing. Wow. Everybody jumped on board of that in the corporate world. But all good news for crypto. It's been, just this crazy period, but this is an area that everyone should have exposure to. And crypto's here. It's not going anywhere. The SEC tried to stop it. Again, politically motivated. Closing crypto banks where there's no evidence of fraudulent activities like it's Silverbank and Signature. All bullshit. Like I said before, I never saw a better risk reward for an asset class than crypto. And you can lose your money in it, but the upside is unbelievable. That's why it deserves a place in everyone's speculative portfolio. The upside on this stuff is incredible, and you don't have that upside in the stock market all the time unless you see a massive crash or unless you're an insider. You get founder shares, but most of the time when you're buying an IPO, it's coming out at a crazy valuation, guys, a really crazy valuation. You might get lucky and maybe 5x your money or 7x. You're not going to get 20x, 50x. These are gains that you don't see in the stock market. Believe me, it covered 30 years. I mean, it's rare. But here, it's common to see 50x gains in crypto. It's common. But again, you have to be careful. You have to know what you're doing. You're going to be risking money. I'm not saying put all your speculative money, but it deserves a place in your portfolio and everyone's portfolio who are seeking risk. So I'm happy for Grayscale. It's a big win for all these companies. I mean, not the FTXs and the fraudulent players out there. But for all the guys doing the right thing, playing by the rules, talk to the SEC for years and make sure they would be compliant, and the SEC just turns around and goes against them all of a sudden out of nowhere. I mean, come on with the politics and the bullshit. It's terrible. But it's really good for Grayscale, great for the industry, great for crypto. Second story is Best Buy's earnings. I think that was a big deal. The report on Tuesday beat expectations. The stock popped 5% or so. But Best Buy is just a great company. I mean, it's well managed. If you look back in history, name pure play electronic retailers, almost every single one has gone bankrupt. Every one of them. CompUSA, Crazy Eddie, Radio Shack, Circuit City, Computer City, Tweeter, The Wiz. I remember all those shops? Holy cow. None of those guys could get it right. Best Buy got it right. Instead of fighting, remember the whole big box retail and online's killing them and pricing and stuff like that, they partnered with Amazon. They sat down, both CEOs, and said, hey, let's do this for our business. It's better. It's great. It's like Amazon's hardware to a lot of these to consumers and retailers. It makes sense. Creating Geek Squad, which is a super high margin business. A lot of people, it's hard to put it. You know how difficult it is to put a flat screen TV on a wall? I mean, it's not difficult, but if you do it wrong, you're done. Things falling off the wall. Now you got to pay for a new TV. The wall's going to cost you a lot of money. You got to sheetrock the whole thing up again. And you want to get that done professionally, and professionally with the wires where you don't see them and everything. And then not only that, more importantly, I would say 95% of people set up their TVs wrong in terms of the specs and the distance away and the sound, surround sound, and how far that is. That's an art. That's not easy to do. Making sure they'll look at the brightness of your room, what room is in. Every room has different brightness. Of course, when you go to Best Buy, it's 8K, beautiful, but that's on something that's an 8K shot, and notice that TV is going to be in a dark place. That's why it looks like that. That's not going to look like that at your house, and most stuff is not 8K. Stuff is just barely 4K now when you have content. But they're able to do all this and look at the lighting and put in. Those guys are really smart. But great logistics. They started price matching a while ago. And just always on the ball. And listen, it hasn't been roses. I mean, earnings per share fell by 20%. Sales down 7%. But they beat the numbers. They beat on earnings. Also beat on margins. Stock popped about 5%. It was like $77, but it was down 10% over the past 3 weeks or so heading into this quarter. I think it was around 85 or so. So expectations were kind of low, and I don't blame them when you see some of these retailers getting annihilated, like Dick's Sporting Goods down 30%. Foot Locker getting smoked, also down 30, 35%. I mean, you can't blame people going, wow, I'm looking at Taiwan, freaking exports are down 30%, 25%. It's horrible. You go into Best Buys now, you're not seeing a lot of traffic in there. I've been in there the past couple weeks a few times, and it's also hard to find somebody that's working there. It's going to help you. There's not as many people, so they're cutting costs, which I guess they need to do. But still, despite all that, $1.22 in earnings, 16 cents better than expected, $9.6 billion in sales. Holy shit, for the quarter. I mean, that's pretty good. Also issued inline guidance, which everybody, that's the measure. If you're lowering guidance, you're going to get nailed in this environment. I mean, even if you report strong guidance now, stocks are so inflated, a lot of those names haven't gone up. They went up a little bit and then came back down, like NVIDIA. She actually had a good day on Tuesday. And you're looking at all these results from Best Buy in an environment where consumer spending electronics is down. You look at it, headsets? I mean, who's buying, mobile phones? Who's buying TVs? Smart home devices with housing? PCs, holy cow, clearly slowing. Good management team, good results, good stock. That doesn't translate over into every business. We have Five Below reporting tonight. I'm just to see what they say. That's the ultimate consumer discretionary stock. I mean, everything they sell in there is completely useless, but they do. It kind of reminds me of Snapchat. Like, after you send the person a text and read it, it disappears. That's kind of like when you buy something Five Below. The value is gone the second you walk out the store. But people buy stuff. My daughters buy stuff in there. I'm like, oh, here we go. And they made it work. Good for them. I'm making fun of it, but still, hey, they make it work on people. But nothing in there is a necessity. There's nothing in there that's a necessity. Nothing. But good for them, that model's work. But I want to see, not really what they report, more importantly, what they say about the state of the consumer. Because that demographic that goes in there, and maybe it's a little bit younger, but the demographic is they're very big spenders between, if you're looking at 20-year-olds to 30-year-olds. Again, I don't want to put it in the Gen Z, whatever. I'm saying that's a grip that they spend a lot of money, even if you go up to like 35 years old. But remember, student loans. Going to have to start paying that. And I think there was a survey that came out 65% can't afford to pay that right now. For 3 years, it was paused. So what does that mean? A lot of bills, credit cards. They're looking at credit cards in that demographic. Did you see it? I mean, holy cow. Delinquencies higher than they were in 2008. You're looking at rates higher than they've ever been, record highs for credit cards. I mean, you're taking that group and taking them out of the spending, right? The U.S. spending circle, that total addressable market. And those guys are going to get hurt a ton. And there's a lot of businesses, and that's the Foot Lockers, right? That goes right into the Foot Lockers. There's a lot of different businesses. You have to be very, very careful with retail. And those guys are significantly cutting back. It's much different from that demographic than you're looking from 35 to, say, 50, who are doing okay. They still have some money. They're spending a little bit. Even in China, if you look at China, I mean, it's not a big demographic, but the high end is doing okay. It's back to pre-pandemic levels. Everything else is shit, but it's certain demographics. But now you have to look at companies that fit inside these demographics. Because there's a big difference between a 25-year-old compared to the 40-year-old, 45-year-old. There's a big difference in spending. And that filters down to a lot of different companies. So now I made fun of them. I made fun of Five Below. The stock's going to pop like 40% tomorrow, right? I write my face funny. I hope it does for shareholders, really. Nothing against them. But we also got some interesting names reporting later in the week, right? Campbell Soup, Hormel. See how those guys do. Usually in the safe environment, those are better names. The safer names have done terribly. Titan Machinery is reporting. I like to see report on those guys. Broadcom, Dell, Lululemon. Lululemon is one of the greatest brands in the world. They could take yoga pants and punch holes in them with a hole puncher, and someone's going to pay $100 for it. They'll sell it for $100. That brand is like unbelievable. Unbelievable. People just going to spend and spend and spend. Every time I go to, my girls love it. People online all the time. I mean, it really is a great, great company and a loyal brand. It's awesome. See what they have to say. I don't know if that's a good gauge of the state of the consumer because, man, I think it's like tattoos in Florida. It's like people will use the last $150 they have to go get a tattoo. So I don't know if it's a good gauge of spending because they're going to spend on that no matter what. But I'm interested to see that report. High expectations going in. But outside of that, what period are we in? Because earnings season relatively over. Jackson Hole is done. Powell said his piece, more hikes likely. We still see a little inflation in the markets. My question is, what's going to drive stocks higher from here? You need catalysts because we're at a high valuation. You need catalysts to drive it higher. If you don't have catalysts, probably if you're cheap, maybe you go a little bit higher and whatever. But when we're trading at a very expensive valuation, considering where interest rates are, and considering that earnings aren't growing year over year. They're down 4.5% year over year this quarter, third straight quarter of negative earnings growth. But you need catalysts. Is it going to be China? They tried lowering rates, lower taxes on trades, giving Country Garden a 40-day grace period for upcoming bond maturities. I don't know if you read that. It worked for like a minute. I mean, stocks popped, and then they sold off a little bit. There's a lot going on in China, guys. I've been reporting to you you're looking at across the board, ETFs markets are down 10, 12% in August in China. Hey, we've been warning about that for a while, guys. You should have been ahead of that. Still see a lot of pain ahead. Let's see. But the risk separation, Macau's probably going to do okay. People are going to gamble no matter what. The high end isn't as bad. So doesn't mean everything China's terrible, but most of it is. But are we going to see growth from there? I don't know. We're going to see from Europe? Where? Just said that, Eurozone, Europe, they're looking to raise rates further, control inflation. So trading levels, S&P trading around 50-day, which everyone is watching right now. And then we're heading into September, which is the worst month for stocks historically. And this is data going back 75 years. Interesting facts here. So in September, we post negative returns 56% of the time. And to put that in perspective, September is the only month of the year to average a negative return. We show positive returns every other month going back in history, except for September. So now September, we're going to go up 30% because I said that. But seriously, you're going into a month, and it's like a lull, right? So we got the holiday weekend coming. There's not a lot going on in September. You're right in between earnings season, and everyone's like, cautious. You do have the Apple event coming out, but, what are they going to say? I mean, do you really need it? I mean, they're giving away the 14 for free. That, there's a company. That's why I say, just with Apple and everything else, there's clear separation, guys, between what's going on with Meta and Google, and those stocks are surging compared to everything else. Apple's cashing a little bit of a bid because they're going to come out with their whole, presentation and everything, and that's in a couple weeks, and launching their new phone and stuff, their events. That's fine, but what a difference. I mean, Tesla's been shit. Apple's been selling off. Netflix, it's been okay, but not like Meta and Google. I mean, that's what I'm seeing in this market. Lots of disconnects when it comes to stocks and valuations. And that's both sides. Like some stocks that are really expensive, that should be like, why own Apple and Microsoft here when you could own NVIDIA at the same multiple? I mean, NVIDIA's growing earnings. They expected to grow earnings over the next 2 years by 50% and sales by 30% annually over the next 2 years. Apple and Microsoft are barely growing and trading at the same multiple. You choose what you want. I mean, I think one of two things has to happen. Either NVIDIA is going to take off, which we saw on Tuesday, and outperform these guys, or Apple and Microsoft are going to come down a lot. Maybe NVIDIA kind of stays here. But that's a disconnect to me. And the reason why it's trading at the same multiples is because they put up unbelievable earnings, second quarter in a row, so that confirms it. Couple of things that people are worried about, where it's China, big exposure to China, what's going to go in politics, something that can't control. Also, what they saw in sales and the increase of sales, and this is unusual, because usually when you have a massive increase in sales, and this is the biggest increase of sales we've ever seen in history the last 2 quarters. Seriously, that's never happened in the history of markets by that amount in these 2 quarters, each of those quarters. We've never seen that much of a guide higher quarter over quarter, ever. But usually when you see that, guys, what do you see? You usually see expenses go higher. Expenses didn't go higher. And not that that's a red flag, but it means that they really, really upped those prices on the chips, which is confirmed by their margins beating estimates. And when you're doing that, you could do that right now because you're the king of the mountain. You have the chip that everybody wants. But man, there's a lot of competition coming. And that's the reason. Do I have to pay 70% margins these guys are making? Do I have to pay that much? Because for Apple, Google, Microsoft, all those guys with big balance sheets, hey, let's take $10 billion off the balance sheet over the next 20, whatever, not even 20, well, like 5 years in spending, and let's start building this stuff because this is getting ridiculous right now, and that's what they're all doing. They're building their own chips. But still, when I'm looking at that company, I see those three, I would say, why, how could you own Apple and Microsoft over NVIDIA right now? And that's what happens when you have a surge in earnings and their stock price didn't really go up too much. It was at 50 and came all the way down. I had a good day on Tuesday, but still it's trading at like 28 times forward earnings. That's in line with Apple and Microsoft. I'd rather own NVIDIA here than those two based on valuation and growth, which is what drives stocks usually. Seeing similar examples of disconnects in other sectors. That's where tomorrow's new recommendation is going to come from. Then I got to break down a few sectors and under the radar stocks that are likely start getting some attention. That's in Wall Street Premium, our premium service, which is $10 a month. And you also get access to a Dollar Stock Club newsletter where we recommend the stock every single week. Get lots of compliments on it, and it's cool. And that's a podcast only available. It's not on iTunes or anything else. Gets sent to you directly. And we're in the process of building an app. Almost at that first version right now, which, coming soon, hopefully. But right now, that gets sent to you, and you can listen to it. That's an awesome podcast we have. It's much, much more detailed, more ideas, stock picks and things like that, and really breaking stuff down. And we go anywhere with that newsletter, even crypto sometimes. And who knows? That's where it might go. Not tomorrow, but maybe next week. We'll see. But a lot of those sectors, you look at large cap telecoms, Verizon upgraded by Citi, utilities a little bit catching a bid, right? Defense stocks have largely underperformed. Nobody wants them when you have technology going up 30% for the year, but it's changing. Even biotech starting to get a little bit in favor, some names. So a lot going on over the next couple of weeks. To be prepared. We'll come out with a night recommendation, Wall Street Unplugged Premium tomorrow. And Dale and I are going to break all this down for you. In the meantime, enjoy the day. From Florida, listen, stay safe from the hurricane, seriously. I was poking fun at it and a little joking around before, and hopefully it's not as bad. We're on the other side. It's not going to hit us as hard, but, those floods and storm surges are real. In Tampa, and they're going to get hit pretty bad. Hopefully a lot of them evacuated and they're going to be okay, and hopefully the hurricane's not going to be too bad and get through this, and be safe. But seriously, be safe with you and your family. Hopefully everything's okay. We'll see on our end how things are, like Curzio and stuff like that. So we may have to push Wall Street Unplugged Premium back a day, which is secondary to everything else that I just said. But just letting you guys know. But either way, we're going to report to you hopefully tomorrow, if not by Friday. And I'll see you guys then. Take care.